Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Philosophy Podcast. I am your host, Controversy, and to my right, ladies and gentlemen, my co-host.
You make me sound like a superstar.
My co-host, ladies and gentlemen, Mr.
Darren Love!
And together, we are the Philosophy Podcast. Thank you to you guys for tuning in to a brand new episode. Thank you for tuning in once again this week, guys. Back with new content for you guys to enjoy once again this week. As always, if you're new to the channel, please like, comment and subscribe. Please subscribe, guys. That really, really helps the channel. You know what I mean? But yeah, without further ado, what is on the agenda for this week, mate? What is today's hot
topic?
Yeah.
I thought about reality and fantasy.
Hmm.
Yeah, like.
So fantasy and reality?
Yeah.
So this week we're talking about
Fantasy and reality, really, what's real and what's not really, and
yeah. What is fact and what is fiction?
Yeah.
That's it. So what are your thoughts? I'll let you have the floor first, mate. What are your thoughts and opinions and anything else that you want to share with the people in regards to fantasy and reality?
Well, I think a lot of people in the world, they live in fantasy world, don't they?
Yeah, live in a dream world kind of thing, you know?
It's like you've got the queen, don't you, and she's, dressed up like a princess, and then she gets crowned queen and all this, do you know what I mean?
Mm.
And everyone's having a daughter, aren't they, and they want their daughter to be their little princess in a kind of way, and they're buying little plastic crowns for them, and all this kind of stuff, do you know what I mean? And it's a bit fantasy, isn't it? It's not the real world, really, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? We kind of lie to our children in a funny way, don't we? And for instance, where's Nan gone? And you can't tell her she's dead.
Well, it's like even when children are young, you know what I mean? And hopefully I'm not bursting anyone's bubble when they watch this. Hopefully, we're not trying to do that, not trying to ruin anything for anyone. But it's just like when you're young, let's talk about fantasy. They tell you about Santa Claus. They tell you you've got a tooth fairy. They tell you all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
When you're young, mate, you believe all sorts of, you know what I mean?
And then you grow up and you think your mum and dad's been lying to you.
Peter Pan and all this shit. And then when you get older, you think to yourself,
been lying to me.
Yeah, they've been lying about all this shit. So what else have they been lying about? That's how I kind of felt. I don't know about other people. It didn't really bother me too much because I knew it was just didn't really matter too much because I understood that, they're trying to make it special for me the way that their parents made it special for them. If you see what I mean, the same way that I try to make it special for my kids. If you see what I mean. But yeah, it's just that it's that fantasy thing of making people believe in the. And don't get me wrong, there's a great part about it. We won't go into it too much because we've already spoken about it a lot of times, but. A great part about it is that you're getting kids to use their imagination.
That's good, yeah.
And that's the benefit of it, I think. To me, that's the only real benefit of it I can really see. Really, is allowing kids to try and use their imagination, try and like visualize it. If you see what I mean in their head, you know what I mean.
Right.
I
mean, it's a quote from Albert Einstein. He says, "If you want your children to be intelligent, tell them fairy tale stories every night." To get them to use their imagination, If you wake up, I think if you wake up the child's imagination,
at a young age.
Yeah, a very young age, that is waking them up. Your imagination is your power in a funny way. I think it's kind of like what makes you you.
Yeah.
In a funny way,
Yeah.
I mean, my imagination, I feel like it's quite big now, do you know what I mean? I've been an artist for a number of years now, and every year your imagination grows, When you're a baby, you haven't really got one at all.
Yeah.
It grows every year, and that's it,
Yeah.
And, what is the imagination, really, It's all your memories, every year that you gain all your memories.
Yeah. Memories, experience,
trees, or flowers,
of everything.
Different birds, or
everything.
Or whatever's said.
So much goes, like, people forget we've got a subconscious brain and we've got a conscious brain. We've got, you know what I mean? We've got a subconscious and a conscience. So the large majority of information gets picked up by the subconscious, if you see what I mean, and then projected back onto the conscious mind. So yeah, you know, we take in so much information on a daily basis and we don't even realize it. But our brain and our memory bank is storing all that information, even shit that we don't even think about to try to remember, shit that we do naturally on a daily basis, our routine or whatever it may be, if you see what I mean. But your brain's logging that information each day. Every day your brain's logging that information. It's almost like a diary, if you see what I mean, like having a diary in your head. Your brain's literally
like having a computer almost.
That's an even better example because it is more like a supercomputer. Supercomputer. Yeah.
You know, I think it's even better than the computer itself. You know, I've been with computers all my life. You know, and I can't. You know, a computer, I feel, will never be able to have what we got. You know, I don't think.
No.
No way. You know, I mean, you can make robots, all right, yeah, but you always got a man to actually tell that robot what to do.
Oh yeah.
You know, you won't get a soul in a robot.
Yeah.
You know, something that can actually, you know, something that's alive.
Yeah, something that's capable of having emotional feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, empathy or whatever.
Well, like for you know, the memory. Go back to that. Yeah, I really do think that's one of the most beautiful gifts that we've got in the whole universe. You know, I mean, for instance, if you woke up tomorrow, you wouldn't want to lose your memory, would you?
No.
You know, and you know, like you can't remember me, for instance. You know, like I mean, people get Alzheimer's.
God forbid. Yeah.
You know, when you get Alzheimer's, you can't remember who your wife is or who your
kids sometimes as well. I've seen it myself firsthand because I've worked in the healthcare industry for a long time.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And I worked with a lot of people with dementia over the years, and for different reasons or another. And yeah, it's quite sad, really, you know. But yeah, like you said, going back to the whole fantasy thing, it's just like, I think it's good to have both, really, mate. I think it's good to have a balance between the two.
I love dreaming.
Because, excuse me, what I was going to say is we all have to live in reality. And that is the reality.
Well, what is reality, right? I mean, the reality everyone's living today, we've got government. But we could have a different reality. Do you know what I mean?
We live in a collective reality, and we also live in an individual reality.
Yeah, we do.
Because we as individuals, as we talk about all the time, we create our own realities by our decision making. Every decision that we make on a daily basis is what projects our life's trajectory, if you see what I mean. So yeah.
I mean, it's like if you stay in bed for the whole day, that's going to be your memory at the end of the night.
Yeah, you stay in bed the whole day.
Right, but if you go to the duck pond, that's going to be the memory at the end of the night. You know, you make up your own memories, basically.
Yeah, you choose what. Yeah.
Like I say, the memory is one of the most incredible things I can think of, really. You know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't beat it.
It's like right now I can sit here and recall. My earliest memory that I ever had, and I think I don't know how old I was. I was still living in the UK, so it must have been just before my parents divorced and we moved to the Caribbean, yeah? And we moved there when I was 3, late 2, turning 3. So this memory must have been when I was about 18 months, 2 years roughly, just before they divorced and separated. I remember running and jumping on my mum and dad's bed as a child. I think it was Christmas, if I remember correctly. I think it was Christmas. As we talked about Christmas just now, and fantasy. That was one of my earliest memories, I think. I think it was about 18 months, 2 years old, running. That's all I can remember, running and jumping on their bed. And then the next earliest memory I've got is when we moved to the Caribbean, and our container arrived with all our shit in it. And I used to have like this little dirt digger thing that was like pedal operated, if you see what I mean. That had like a scoop on the front of it, if you see what I mean, like a dumper truck type thing. And I remember we were living on a hill over there in the Caribbean. The first house that we lived in was on the top of the hill. And I remember being like 3 years old, getting on this little tractor and going down the hill and losing control of it, because obviously going downhill on this steep hill and the pedals are going around so fast that my little feet can't keep up with the motion of it, if you see what I mean. And I'm trying to stop it, so I ended up having to like turn it and crash it into the walls just to save me going all the way down the hill. And
that's a funny thing. You remember like things.
So those are the 2 earliest memories I can remember. Those 2, that running and jumping on my mum and dad's bed, and then that. After then, I can remember everything else, if you see what I mean. But those 2, and it hits, You know, that memory of getting on that dumper truck when I was 2 or 3 years old and going down that hill, and my mum screaming, "Josh!" running behind me, going, you know, worried shitless, because obviously I'm going downhill on this thing quite quickly. If you see, I mean, it's cars coming up and down the road and shit. And,
I remember one of my first memories, right? And
yeah.
it was, I was in the car.
Yeah.
So I must have been quite young.
Oh, wow, that's quite, yeah.
You know, like
yeah.
3 or something, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But then my brother, he come in, because he had one of these guns, right? And it's a space gun.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Not a water gun or anything like that. It's a space gun, right? But in those days, like, well, I was born in 1965, do you know what I mean? Yeah. And the toys that were coming out in that time were a bit different to the toys. They wouldn't have these toys now.
Yeah.
Right? Then, you know, what were coming out then.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what it was, so these space guns, basically, you pull the trigger, and they look like guns, you know, but they're sort of made of plastic.
Yeah.
They kind of look like they glowed up in the dark, but they didn't. If you sort of, they're sort of like quite green and orange or whatever. But I can remember these guns, you know, and then when you pull the trigger, they let out these sparks.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they spark out like this.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a sparkler, basically, you know. And anyway, my brother come in, and I was sort of like in the car, and I can remember it. And he went like this, and all these sparks coming at me, alright? And I went, oh, you just started screaming.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, it's one of my first memories, you know, and you do remember frightening moments. Like
you do, yeah.
They stick in your head, don't they? Do you know what I mean? And that's the funny thing, you know. You know, it's like when you do something different, for instance, you know, like, if you've done the same thing day after day for a year, but you decide to do something different for once, you know, you went somewhere else.
Yeah.
You kind of remember that.
Yeah.
It sticks out, you know, because you know, like doing the same thing day after day, you kind of like not doing really sort of anything for your memories, really. You know, it's sort of like you need to expand out, really. You
have to create memories.
Yeah, you know, and I feel blessed in a funny way, you know, because I've not been right around the world or anything, you know, in every place. Like, for instance, I've never been to America or Africa or Australia, but I've been like to Spain, Malta, you know, and Germany, you know, Ireland. I've travelled the world, you know, a little bit, you know, and explored the world a little bit, because luckily I got a job working on the ships.
Yeah,
when I was a young man, you know. You know, so I feel happy that I've explored the world a little bit today. Do you know what I mean? Not done it, you know, You know, I mean, if I had a lot more money right now, I'd love to travel a lot more. You know, it gives you, like I said, we said before, it gives you a rocket, doesn't it? You know, you buy, you know, it's like, you know, you got all of a sudden you've got a rocket outside your house, and you can go anywhere. You know, put it like that. You know, I mean, that's fantasy, isn't it?
That's
sort
fantasy.
of like thinking, you know, you can travel to the moon by using your imagination.
But I think sometimes fantasy is important too, because when you want to manifest shit as well, when you're working towards a goal or working towards achieving something, I think it's very important to you have to be able to visualize it.
Definitely.
To see it, you know, you don't only want to have the feeling of working towards it and feeling like you're achieving it, but also being able to see it in your head, you know what I mean? Being able to kind of like visualize the, you know, future success, so to speak, if you see what I mean.
So it's important to have a good imagination, I think.
So I think it's finding the balance between the two, you know, because you know, as even like us, we're creatives, you know what I mean, but we still have things to do on our day-to-day lives, on a day-to-day basis in our lives, if you see what I mean. That is, if you see what I mean, that we would kind of basically say it's our reality, if you see what I mean. Like, you know, for me, like, I work a certain amount of days a week, you know what I mean, and then my days off spent with my kids and housework and.
Well, I used to do that,
etc. Like, you know, that, you know.
I've done all that.
You know, like I've got my routine set things, and then on my, you know, certain days I come around and see, you know, I pop around here a few days a week, you know, do our shows and X, Y, Z. But yeah, you know, we all create our realities, don't we?
Yeah.
We all, you know, a lot of time our realities are based around our passions, are things that drive us and make us happy, and you know.
Well, you know, each new day that comes, you've got to get your sleep in.
Yeah.
You've got to do all these things, you know, and you can't not get your sleep in, because you won't be able to do some music the next day because your brain won't function. You know what I mean? You've got to do all these things, and you've got to cook yourself something to eat properly. Yeah. You know, something good to eat, whatever. Yeah. You know, and you can't just sit there doing music all day or whatever, or learn, you know. Yeah. You know, let's say it's taken me a very, very long time to learn even how to put a bit of music together, you know, or some drums, you know, but now I can do it. You know, and that's great, you know, and now I'm want to learn other things and move on, you know, and looking forward to the future.
Yeah, that's it.
Looking forward to it, you know, in a big way. You know, I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, because I know that when, you know, I get tired, I go to bed, I wake up, positive. You know, I know.
Fresh start.
Well, I've got to have a bath. That's another thing you've got to do. You know, so I have a nice bath. I know that I've got to be patient. Have a nice bath. Get up, and then I might be able to do a bit of music or do a video.
Yeah.
Or, you know, do something
productive.
Yeah. You know, like I say, I love doing music, and the more I do it, I feel like I'm improving a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and it's good that other people, you know, even with music, you've got to dream a little bit, you know, and fantasize in a funny way, to create an atmosphere in it and things like this.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, to be honest, today you've got a lot of artists, especially in the hip hop industry today, who create a fantasy. You know, don't get me wrong, there are some people really living that lifestyle, you know, but you also got a lot of people that talk about stuff in their music, especially in hip hop and like I was saying, especially in rap and hip hop today, in modern day, you know, this day and age. We got a lot of people talking about shit that don't, you know, they're not even really doing that shit, if you see what I mean. They're not even really living, you know, that kind of life, and they're, you know, glamorizing it and perpetuating it in their music, and you know, I think it's just.
I think there's lots of different worlds out here, really. You know, I think we all live in different worlds.
Got a lot of people that live in fantasy world, mate. You know,
That's right, yeah, definitely. You know, and I think like you've got to live in reality.
You have to, yeah. You got people that lie to themselves on a daily basis, mate.
I mean,
if you get what I'm saying, you got people that lie to themselves.
Yeah. True.
On a daily basis, mate.
True.
Can't even be honest with themselves. So they're living a fantasy. Some people. Just in that regard alone, you know. So,
I love dreaming, you know, personally, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when if you're doing some art, you've got to dream a bit first before you put it on paper. Same with music.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Same with music. You know, but like today, I think like a lot of people, you know, living in different worlds out there. Like I said, you know, in fantasy world.
Yeah.
And I mean, even reality itself. You know, you think about like reality, going to the forest, for instance. You know.
Yeah.
For the day, it's quite a magical place. You know, reality is kind of magical. You know, there's lots of different sort of, you know, different aspects, I suppose, with reality. You know, like we've got a government, that's reality.
That's what I'm saying.
We've got rules, we've got laws.
That's what I'm saying. That is the collective reality that most people exist in. You know, the shit that happens on a day-to-day basis, if you see what I mean, on a global and country, or national scale.
Or another thing, you know, I was born in this world, whatever, and I grow up and I realise there's a royal family there. You know what I mean? You know, and that's reality. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and we could have sort of like all been born in this world and royal families didn't exist in the first place.
That's what I was saying. That is a bit of a fantasy that exists in the reality, if you see what I mean, if that makes sense, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Well, like I say, this world could have had different realities. Like, for instance, if money wasn't invented, for instance, you know, this world would have been living in a different angle completely right now.
Yeah, for sure.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, like I say, I do look at it like, if there was another planet with a different, you know, alien race, whatever, they wouldn't have invented money.
Yeah.
You know, and they might be more advanced than us some way or another, you know, because they've not invented money. You know, they're more together as a people. Where on our world, like I've said before, we've got the business world, which was invented again somehow, you know, someone making profits, you know, whatever. And I don't like that. You know, it's not the world I want to live in, and I don't think it's the world any child wants to live in, to be honest with you, do you know what I mean, growing up. But it's reality for everyone. We've got to live in the world that exists, which is pretty horrible if you ask me. You know, it's pretty nasty, the business world, I think, you know, as I've said, you know. You know, I wish that I lived on a different planet with better with a lot of intelligent people, basically, you know, and we didn't have business, if you see what I mean, you know. It didn't exist.
Yeah.
One invented, money wasn't invented, do you know what I mean?
Mm.
And we had a different method, you know, because we used to live without money at one point, do you know what I mean? It was invented, just like football was and cricket and so on, all invented. You know, like I say, 200 years ago, it was a different, you know, 500 years ago.
Completely different world.
Different reality.
Completely different reality.
People weren't talking about football.
No.
They weren't talking about cricket. Well, they weren't probably talking in the pubs, you know, like they are today. Do you know what I mean? You know, we're living in a different modern world reality today.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure.
You know, with new inventions coming out, computers, for instance, you know what I mean? That's a new reality.
Yeah.
You know, and a bit of a fantasy at the same time, you know, a lot of people playing games, you know, and making up games even, you know, and making up music and so on and so on. You know, it's a dream machine, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The internet, I think.
Yeah.
You know, it's incredible it's been invented, really. You know, in a funny way. It's a bit like the memory.
Yeah.
You know, it memorises everything everywhere it was put on it.
And can store. It's got a lot, you know, got data storage, you know.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you think like Google, you think any question you want.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, you're stuck with it, right? Even like if you've got a bad arm, you know, and there's a spot growing or something, you can Google it.
Yeah.
And come up with the answer, do you know what I mean? It'll come up. You know, you can learn a lot very quickly with it, I think. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, to me, I look at it like God, right? Give you sort of question and ask God. You know.
Well, I get what you're saying in a way. I get what you mean. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But it is in a way. It's everyone.
Yeah.
On there, you know, putting their knowledge on it some way or another, you know, and we all got our own little knowledge.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I look at the internet like we're all little battery cells, plugging into the internet, putting all our energy into it and what we know, whether it's a doctor or whether it's actor, whatever.
Yeah.
You know. And we're all putting our own little, you know, art or whatever on there. You know, and the internet's made up with all those pieces.
Yeah, yeah.
All of us.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean. It's all of our intelligence put together. You know, so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's an amazing, phenomenal learning machine. That's how I learn. I've learned how to read.
Yeah.
You know, a bit better. Anyway, you know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cook.
Yeah.
You know, and this is reality that we're living in today. That the computer was invented, the internet was invented, and people are going around with their phones today talking to them.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
I know.
That's the reality.
I know.
And yeah, you know, it's the world of what we got today.
Yeah.
Exactly, you know.
It is. It's true.
You know, like the shutdown, that was reality, you know.
Yeah. For most people.
For everyone.
For everyone. Pretty much everyone.
But I'm getting drunk today, you know, like it's the first time I've had a beer really for a long time.
You're getting drunk?
I don't know why, it's not my birthday. But like, when it was my birthday about a month ago, we didn't really have a drink, did we?
Not really, no.
My brother come up or whatever and we didn't get round to it, but we're having a drink, a late drink today.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There's
to reality and fantasy.
That's it, health and wealth.
Yeah. But, you know, I've got a lot to say about, you know, fantasy and reality.
Yeah, likewise, mate. Because, you know, I think sometimes people find it hard, especially the younger generation, find it hard to distinguish between what is reality and what is fantasy. And I think that is kind of becoming a little bit of a problem in our society, where people watch movies and people hear certain musical content or certain whatever it may be, and they hear their favourite rapper or favourite artist or favourite actor or whoever it is talking about doing certain things or participating in certain things, you know what I mean, in their music or their videos or whatever the case may be, not realising that it's just entertainment value, if you see what I mean. And you've got a lot of younger, especially the younger generation, you know, getting caught up in this fantasy today, where they find it hard to distinguish between what is actual reality and what is fantasy. Like, you know, that's so important. You need, even some young adults as well today as well, actually, mate, are finding it hard. Like, you know, you've got to realise, like, there's a big difference between what is entertainment and what is actually really reality, if you see what I mean. It's just like we all know relationships don't go like they show in the movies. If you see what I mean. Because we know
they do sometimes.
Well, occasionally, but not very often. Usually in a movie, it's a happily ever after, 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
In a film.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean, in a Hollywood film, comedy or whatever the case may be, it'll be some kind of happily ever after, story, whatever. So we know it's entertainment. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's just so people got to learn today to be able to distinguish between what is fictional and what is reality. Like sometimes your favorite rapper might not be doing the things that like I was talking about earlier, might not be doing the things that he's talking about. If you see what I mean, you've got to understand that he's purely just rapping about certain things or talking about certain things for shock value or for entertainment purposes to get viewed and get appeal, build up some kind of appeal, So definitely.
It's like children though, they're not in my generation because games weren't invented until I was about 25. So coming out about that time, maybe 21 actually. Whatever. But like this generation, whatever, they've been purely, a lot of them, like my children, they played a lot of games when they're younger,
Yeah.
Then they leave school and go and hit the real world. All of a sudden, do you know what I mean? They've been playing games, and they can't, and like in playing games, for instance, like when I was a little boy, I told you, like I used to sort of like, because there weren't any games, I used to go out in the garden.
Okay.
And be with nature a little bit more, do you know what I mean? This is what's kind of like happening with children. They get entertained in one way, an electronic way, but they're being pulled away from their natural, sometimes, too much. It depends how much you play games, you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
Like some children play them a lot, whatever, and get away with it because their parents, they dominate their parents sometimes, whatever, and so on.
Yeah.
There's lots of different situations out there, and I think like everyone's a little bit different, like I said, we've got lots of different, distractions out there, like football, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Some people are into football. Some people don't even like it.
Yeah.
Wish it didn't want invented. Do you know what I mean? Like, and cricket, whatever, and we're all got different hobbies in a funny way, because this is what I think's kind of like happened with society in a way, that it's separated us.
Yeah.
In a funny way, where 500 years ago, you think about it, they weren't talking about football, or they weren't watching television.
Yeah.
They were kind of like a little bit more together. They had to be.
Yeah.
Because, whatever. It was just a bit different, different reality to today.
Yeah.
And you sort of think in another 100 years it's going to be probably a different reality to today.
Yeah.
If things don't change. I mean,
Mm.
everyone wants change, but we're all got the same thing, haven't we? You know what I mean? Sort of, we're doing the same system, like, like 12 months of the year and all this. They could have said 7 months really and made them a bit longer the days or whatever, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They could have done all kinds of things,
Yeah.
And people think this is the clocks and all this. Some people